Howdy, homies. Part 2 of the Shambler vs. ArbuzBudesh with some of the more confusing names in my casting career. We conclude this on Sigma XY. This is actually a map we've seen. I think there was like a proxy Stargate from Steven versus, I can't remember if it was Ramen or Luai. Maybe it was a PvP match, actually. It might have been versus Arbuz. Anyway, Arbuz is our brown Protoss in the top left with the ID Shambler, but not gay. And ArbuzBudesh, or Arbuz but not straight, is in the bottom right. That is, of course, the Shambler's ID. He is the white Terran in the bottom right. So we have our players. As noted in the previous cast, I will probably prank their names a few times because I'm just used to looking at the display and saying, yeah, that's Arbuz. It says Arbuz right there in his name, but actually he's Terran. Shambler will be rocking Bio Opener. We did see that not really play to his strengths there in that last game on... I can never remember the names of any of these XY maps. There's Origin X, Alpha XY, I think it was. Yeah, they all blend together, and it doesn't help that they're all space platform maps, so it's not even like I can try to remember certain aspects of them. Anyway, there's a faster movement. Mason Scout. Mason Man, it's me, Scout Man. And it is indeed Shambler moving across the map. Now, Arbuz has been kind of... like, I feel like he was memed on in the first game because Shambler went mech, and he almost never goes mech. And so that was definitely something that he had to deal with. So now he's scouting, which is good. You know, it's good to scout your opponent in Cosmonarchy. It's good to scout your opponent in general. I'm glad Arbuz is doing that. Now, Shambler is going to come up here and see a 2-gate opener. It seems like middle-of-the-road opener. You can go Gate Lattice, Gate Grand Library. There's a couple of different things you can do, but people seem to be settling into Gate. I think Gate Rogue Gallery is kind of underutilized, and I'm sure Steven has been able to find some success with that. Probably versus Zerg in particular, because... when you're up against Zerg or Protoss, the Kabbalist, which is a Dark Templar equivalent, comes out and has the teleport attack, the blink strike ability, basically. As long as it's cloaked, it does that, and it also gets bonus damage. So you one-shot Droleths, you one-shot Scribes, those are drones and probes, the equivalents there. So versus Protoss, versus Zerg, it can be quite powerful. But even versus Terran, we've seen it wreak havoc before, so definitely looking forward to seeing some of those at some point. And right now I have to rely on Steven to make them because nobody else seems to be interested in it. But I know that they can do some pretty dastardly things. When Ayud plays Protoss, he does it as Kabbalist Man sometimes. So definitely interested in that. It's actually going to be a 2-gate embassy build. Probably see Artisans out. Maybe a drop, but I would not count on it. Mason returns home for Shambler. He's actually built a quarry. I don't always see him go Taluses, but this is a map where we have these neutral infested things on these like Zergish tiles, right? And he's going to start harvesting minerals as opposed to the gas nodes. That's interesting. You can probably build sieves on those ridges. I'm not 100% sure. If you can't, it might still be thematic. It might be a fine thing. But we'll see. We'll see if he ever does it. Embassy finishing up and going for an Artisan. Not a bad move. Overall, I want to say that the Drakadans stepping forth here are going to have to deal with a lot of the Mavericks. And so there's the stim. You don't want to mess with the stimmed Mavericks. And Shambler, well, we saw him in that second match in yesterday's video, just expend like 4 stims on a whole group of like 20 Mavericks and do a ridiculous amount of damage to himself and eventually hunt down all the Drakadans that were sent across the map. But it took a while. And, you know, as much as I'm a fan of getting paid, I don't know if we need to see that anymore. All right, a couple more Taluses. Fully saturating the single mineral field in the middle of nowhere. I think it's fully saturated, isn't it? Yeah, it looks like it's just barely fully saturated. It's like slightly under. There's another stim as one Maverick goes down. It looks like Shambler's go button has been pushed. A lot of those Mavericks are quite low, actually, but it doesn't really matter when 2 Drakadans pop like balloons. Not ideal for Arbuz. He will try to force another stim out, but doesn't seem like it's worth it for a single Drakadan, so... yeah, Arbuz will get away with only 1 Drak to his name, and he'll be looking to add something else as his expansion comes online about halfway done. We are going to see a ministry for the Shambler. He's still holding his forward position, and the single Drakadan that did stay alive is actually falling all the way back. Do we have any hero Mavericks with a kill? Yeah, it looks like these 2 killed the Drakadans. There's an outside chance, yeah, this one killed a Scribe. I was going to say there's an outside chance that one of them killed the Worker Scout instead and stayed alive to tell the tale. So, you know, good job. That guy's a real veteran. And yay, the Artisans are also doing the same exact thing. There's 2 of them over there and 1 of them over here. So harvesting those extra resources. Is there like some kind of agreement to not harvest from the gas, or... Well, clearly Shambler's not respecting it if so, because he's doing it. I was going to say, I was wondering why they both started harvesting minerals first. Maybe they can post in the comments why they believe that's a better move. I guess it could just be something as simple as, I don't need gas right now, I need more minerals so I can make more Mavericks. And of course a treasury expand. Whoa, I guess because he has Taloses coming out of the quarry, he feels like he has that extra worker production queue already, so he can put a treasury down, and then a quarry down on his treasury and make more Taloses, and eventually have more Taloses than Masons. Crazy. But hey, I think Nebelheim would approve if it were possible to do elegantly. Ardent Authority, now complete for ArbuzBudesh, and a witness probably into an envoy if I had to speculate. We will probably see a Cantor drops again. I'll give my voice a break for just a moment and remind you guys that we do indeed have lots of action in Cosmonarchy. There's single-player content, cooperative content. We've got players who play versus AI, and, of course, competitively, as you see here. And maybe one of the things I'll try to do at some point is showcase some of those co-op content where I live cast our players actually trying to play one of the co-op scenarios or something. That could be a cool, fun thing to do at some point. So if you like that idea, feel free to drop a comment suggesting as much. Or if you have other ideas for casts, feel free to do it as well. Looking forward to some team games and free-for-alls. We saw one published on the channel recently. Definitely want to see more like that. So yeah, I did say I was going to give my voice a break, and I'm going to do that by taking a sip of water. Overall, I'm definitely looking at this match as a fairly even one. The economy is fairly even. Both players utilizing the flying workers to harvest from these island bases, or whatever you want to call them, these worker-only resources, the advanced worker-only resources. And the witness does come in to see that, sees that Shambler is also taking advantage of it. Looks like, to me, that we'll probably see some attempt at raiding that, but we have no air units that can actually shoot, right? The witness does get shot at by the shaman, revealing Eidolons, revealing covenants. Okay, so it looks to me like the witness has basically figured out exactly what needs to happen here. The Acantor drop needs to happen. And here it comes. The Mavericks were just leaving the building, and, well, Shambler hasn't actually noticed it yet, and the Watchdog is not quite finished. Wow, the first shot is dodged. I can't believe it. But you know what? The second shot is good, and so too is the third, and the fourth! Looks like he picks up 6 worker kills there to get a decided advantage. Now he can come on down to raid the natural from the high ground, the geometry of the map being used against him. This kind of reminds me of Mystery Meat doing it to Shambler on an old map called Helheim and on the Ice Tile set. Getting a lot of bio kills as well, but Arbuz seems totally fine to just let his drop die. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'm busy back at home. I already did enough. Very amusing. Shambler. Shambler, no, don't shoot your own thing, please. And also get back to mining. Yes, Shambler. You're still playing the game. No, Shambler. Why are you shooting your own stockade? Explain that. I love the double matrix up here. It would be really hard to bust this. Anyway, I'm not going to say it's GG, but there is a 12 worker deficit, and we have multiple unitary unions coming online here for Arbuz. So after that very successful drop, even though Arbuz could have actually microed his drop afterwards and maybe even gotten away, although these watchdogs kind of pinched him in, at the very least, he could have maybe done a little bit more damage at the end. He definitely did a lot. Oh, look, the Envoy's still alive? Holy shit. Arbuz really just wasn't paying attention and just wanted to leave it there for his scout, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Another unitary union coming online. Once you get so many, it's definitely worth it to drop a Crucible somewhere to enchant them. If he puts it right here, it would also get his Ardent Authority in one of his gateways. Maybe the Embassy as well. So we'll see if that ends up factoring in as he caps one of the ridges here. And might just think about taking another expansion across the bridge there, over yonder. Very interesting. So the bio move out is going to happen here, right? But my concern here for our Shambler man is that if he loses his army to Cantors again, there's not really an easy remax option he has to get an army back. He can't rebuild his army to respond to these threats. Now, we do have some Vibrances starting. ArbuzBudesh is a fan of the Vibrance. I think all Protoss players are. But I also think that the unit will probably see a couple of adjustments here and there. On pre-release, relative to our latest release patch, it already did see a reduction in its damage. Max damage went from 15 to 10. It is an AoE attack, so it is reduced the further away from the unit that you are. But I think fundamentally it's a very tanky unit in most cases. So we'll have to see how it takes shape and how players respond to it. As another unitary unit, it's just the Vibrance show right now for ArbuzBudesh. His Acantors are definitely going to perform very well against Bio. We've already seen that. So this cloaked pulse unit that restores shields whenever a unit is hit by it, like basically it procs like the Ecclesiast attack, but on all targets that get hit. We'll see if Arbuz finds a good use case for it. He sees that the Bioforce is kind of sharking around at his doorstep, and he's got a very nice concave from his third base to his natural choke, which I quite appreciate. There is a flank coming in from the south, though. Nothing over there to catch it and warn Arbuz about that incoming attack. So this pincer could end up being significant, even though there's some static defense coming online. The forces here are more than enough to deal with that, especially if there's a stim pack thrown in. Don't even really have to micro it too much. So let's see what Shambler ends up doing. First couple of units do indeed draw some attention, and the rest of the army is now going to move down those ramps. A little bit awkward in terms of the timing. These forces did kind of get hung out to dry. The Cantor shells are set loose, and yeah, Shambler kind of has to just sacrifice some of his army to not really get too much done, but at the very least he sees where his opponents are, where his opponent's army is. Continues to move around. The Anseals might pop up to see what's up with the Unitary Union. Did we miss any Vibrances leaving the building? It looks like maybe they're just all kind of massed up right now. I was going to say it would be pretty nice if, you know, Arbuz sent those guys across and got some scouting done with them, with the fact that they are indeed invisible. I feel like if it was a Terran unit and decloaked based on proximity, right? That would be one thing. But for it to be super hidden is kind of evil, isn't it? Yeah, it already lost durability and damage, actually. This is before our release patch, believe it or not. So our release patch came a day after this, and I had already tweaked it so that they weren't so powerful. But definitely be on the lookout for those kinds of units doing some damage. A single pylon is being attacked. I'm not quite sure why. I guess he wants to build more large structures over there. Obviously, the pylon is not necessary. He needs to get out of his own base first, which seems to be a challenge. Or maybe his units were just aimlessly wandering. A lot of money in the bank for Arbuz, but a very, very strong army. That being said, Shambler has a very large number of military units here. And he's got detection, so the Vibrant's not able to get attacks off to sustain itself. Does become a little bit of a problem. Now he's going to dive in with the Zealots. The Clarion's helping out quite a bit as well. You saw a little bit of that shield restore on the Vibrants there, as it does try to get a little bit more value. Oh, the Clarion going down is a very big, impactful move. Meanwhile, the Vibrances aren't really getting max damage hits off, but they're still cleaning house over here, along with those Acantors. They dive in onto the Eidolons. Very, very potent units. Savant trying its best to do some damage. Some of these units actually running through. That might have been a misclick, or maybe just trying to draw some of the fire of the Acantors, but there was nothing there to stop the onslaught of the Protoss robotics. Do you seek to bring forth a robotic age? What do the Cloaked Ones do? Well, they attack. Big AoE splash. And it procs the Ecclesiast passive. Definitely going to be something that Protoss is going to be happy with until Terrans, and for that matter Zerg, find a way to respond to it. We'll see what ends up happening. An obvious other maneuver I could end up doing is try to reduce their movement speed a little bit. And if I do that, then it starts to synergize with Vengeance. So you start throwing Servitors in to speed them up. And that's kind of like when I see the Zoryustaleth speeding up the Lakizalisk, our Lurker equivalent, and then the Lurker burrows, right? The Lakizalisk burrows. That's pretty cool too. So that kind of thing would be pretty neat. Look, Shamans are here. Hi. Devastation. Did that scribe stay alive? Is what I want to know. Doesn't look like it's still here, but I don't see its corpse, so that's fine. Sharing space over here, I see. Oh, look at that. One of the Vibrants is going down immediately to the combined fire of all this bio, plus the detection. Yeah, there's there's 9 of them just roving the map right now. Good job, Arbuz. Enjoying your new tools, your new toys. Unars are on the way as well, being deployed. We got plenty of Zealots as extra gateways have been added. He killed that pylon, but didn't really do anything with it, so not really sure what's up with that. And a 4th base being taken, as his 5th is also coming online. So Arbuz is double expanding on 3 base Robo, seeking to go beyond. A couple of units catching each other on the extremities of the map, as indeed we are just kind of chilling, just doing stuff, right? Just doing stuff. So Very cool stuff there. Definitely want to see some kind of reaction. Neither player has gone for air units, right? Like, all of the Unitary Union units, Asciliant included, are obviously going to be ground units. The Clarion is the only air unit we've seen, and that's a support unit, the Witness as well, and the Envoy. But, like, you know, on the Terran side, we've just had the Ant Seal. No, not even a Trojan. No drops this time. A single Wraith has been started, and that makes a lot of sense because now Shambler can just kill this area over here. He's already got his Maverick stationed over here. He's actually going to kill the reservoirs. That's an interesting choice, instead of trying to use them himself. By the way, this whole time, those artisans from the beginning of the game could have been harvesting this place. This is something I feel like this map is probably going to need to change if it wants to be a bit more on the balanced side, because having these, something you can access for the advanced workers of the Protoss in particular, it definitely enables some strategies. But we'll see. I mean, people have to get a little bit more proactive about scouting that as well, right? So it's not purely a map balance thing or even a game balance thing, but also what do the players do in the face of such wanton aggression? Tier 2 on the way now for the Shambler. It only took him 15 minutes, almost 16. We'll see if he can buy enough time to catch up with his opponent. Economically speaking, he is at the 4 base count, and he is setting up a 5th with a Talos and a Treasury. Could be a band name, or could it? A couple of Wraiths are going to move out to try to get a bit of a bead on what's happening over here in the top left. Actually, these artisans have depleted the minerals over here. Very impressive, honestly. I would not have expected that happening, honestly. That's pretty cool. Wraiths are going to move through over here and see this base and then get heckled, so Shambler is going to have to pull them away, and he will not evacuate either of them. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. All right, so overall, I mean, the complexion of the game is that Shambler will get to tier 2 and start using some stuff there. The Unar is a sniper unit, single target damage, very good. The basically, it deals, as you can see, over 100 damage, and it does have 4 armor pen, so it ignores a lot of armor in the process. Now a Monument of Sin starting for ArbuzBudesh. That's what I was waiting for, is what is the next tech going to be as architects start to hit the field as well. The one Drakodon spotting out another move. We're going to see a rotation of the army, presumably, up this very small ramp by comparison to the army size. As the Drakodon is routed by the Harakans, the army does indeed come on in. Another Drakodon getting pelted. The Vibrance is still kind of operating in that vicinity. The Asciliants pushing away this Bioforce. If they're able to stay alive, I think the Asciliants in this case kind of actually do need a Clarion or something. A little bit awkward there. Needs to keep itself alive and at the extremities. And now the Vibrances are made aware of the Terran army moving in, but they're surrounding. This could actually be a big old sandwich. Gotta watch out for that. Antseal also providing some detection. The bio hit comes in. It's going to help deal with some of these units. The Acantor was not on an attack move, so that is a little bit awkward. Big Bioforce going to maybe shut down this 5th base, but the wraparound is pretty significant here. The Vibrance is engaging without the rest of the army. Could be a bit of a problem here for Arbuz as the rest of them wrap around the south. The Mavericks are stimmed. They're doing all right. They're holding on thanks to the Shaman. I can't believe it, but the Vibrances are being broken. They did not close the gap to do more damage and get their shield sustain on, so maybe not a best showing of the new unit's capabilities, but as the Asciliants are also going to fall, there's not really that much crowd control left in this army. And even still, the reinforcements definitely helping out. The workers here battling it out, and there's only Eidolons and Cyprians left here at this point, with a couple of Acantors, the Unar staying alive as well. We are actually seeing some kind of late resurgence into the fight for our Protoss, but it is going at the cost of another army over here. We get a nice shot of the Asciliants in action, splitting all of that damage out. They basically have the same attack as the Gladius as far as they have the Gladius passive, but it's a laser instead of a slow projectile, so it hits a little bit harder. Anyway, Arbuz is indeed typing it out and still winning the fight, because that's how Protoss are. He holds both bases despite the grand scale of the armies, and Shambler executes another man just for inspiration or something, thinking it's Dawn of War. Well, I'm pretty surprised by that, but the Asciliants do a lot of damage in that way. It doesn't look like the surviving ones did have too much damage there, but yeah, I like how Arbuz is the one with the unit, so he can select it, and in the command card it'll show him the actual it'll show him what the unit does, but you know, that would require reading and then typing. And you know what, to be fair, do you really want to do that right now? There goes that Unar and the Architects sniping a Warden that was misplaced and blocking pathing. Nexus does get dropped for a 6th base for a Protoss player. It's pretty cool. We get to see that many bases in action. Plenty of harvesting happening in the bottom right, as well as a little bit in the bottom left. And the top right has not been colonized either, really. Another big bio ball. Where's the tier 2 at? I see we have Mantles making cataphracts, which is not a bad shout. He's now going to descend upon this base with a nice little spread. See if he can snipe down those Asilians before they can really do too much on the spreading. And, well, he's not being super focused fire on it, but he will end up clearing it. And that will be a wrap for the 4th base of ArbuzBudesh. Knocked down back to reality of being tied eco with his opponent. Actually, I guess for a short period of time, Shambler will have a better eco. Because he's killing all these workers, and this base up here in the top left hasn't actually been saturated or even finished, for that matter. I'm kind of surprised. I feel like maybe Arbuz thought he was going to just win a little while ago. But he's actually got his Monumentus in. He's making his Anthelians, right? I don't think the Crucible reaches the Monument, by the way. That's an unfortunate situation. If it was one tile to the left, I think it would. Bio army moving back down. Man, we're in a bit of a slugfest here, where we get to look at the architecture of the map, the general sort of vibe of the armies that we have. I don't think Unars are particularly good versus Bio, but actually, if they stay alive, they can snipe out the Cataphracts. I mean, think about it. With 3 armor, the Cataphract doesn't block any of the damage from the Unar. That means that 3 Unars one-shot a Cataphract if they get all of their salvos off. So the Unars do, I think, have a place. It might just not be an immediate choice there. And also, Unars attack air, which can be very, very significant versus certain compositions that do rely on smaller numbers of air units. So this raid is definitely going to be consequential as a couple of Dracodons slap down a couple of these Masons and a Cyprian. It would be really funny if Shambler ends up capping those geysers later, like... Oh, look at this. Poor Anseal. They're breaking shields. Look, a Ministry has been started. Nice try, Cyprian, but worst try. A couple of Mavericks here as well. Reinforcements coming on in. They'll kill the Mason. That's the least they can do. All right. So another big blob is moving in from the south. We've got plenty of Protoss armies here. The Anthelians are stacking up, and once he gets maybe, I guess he'll wait until he has like 3. I feel like he could have gone as it is. Remember, he still has this Witness in this base, so he could move it up here and just, you know, delete this worker line if he wanted to. The later in the game, the more dangerous it is to have Witnesses in your base. Man, the Mavericks are trying to stay alive, even despite having no healing at all. They are slowly breaking through, staying alive long enough for the rest of the army to break it, and make it expensive for Arbuz, for that matter. And remember, the Anthelians can jump into battle at any point. They are not yet. Maybe Arbuz has forgotten about them for now. He's now being besieged, but there is an engram there. Cataphract going to fire a couple of warning shot lasers out as another base being contested. We are going to need to see those Anthelians be deployed. Otherwise, Arbuz is just going to straight up lose another Nexus. Analogs are out there, a little bit buffed from where they were, but focused down right now, and no Clarion to take the brunt off either. This base will hold, surprisingly. But, you know, the actual 5th base has fallen. Much the same can be said for that 4th. All right, well, it looks to me like the Anthelians were not necessary to clear this army. But as of right now, you got to say that that's another victory for our Terran player. How many times is he going to be able to do that is what I want to know. Anthelians on this base would just absolutely erase it before any static defense even finishes. Arbuz... Oh, no, he looked over here for a second, but still hasn't used it. He's got a nice little garrison of units down here at his 3rd, which is, by this point, depleted. When you get into the position where the 3rd bases are depleted, man, you know it's been a long one. Look at all the Sentinels! He's so paranoid about anti-ground. Needs those anti-surface defenses in action. But really, the true threat lingers in the skies, rotating forever. This feels like it is indeed a victory for our Protoss player, just inevitably, but if Shambler ever catches wind of the presence of the Anthelians and doesn't immediately die after that, there is a potential for him to just start putting like 4 or 5 watchdogs in each base, and suddenly he's going to be a lot more insulated. That's a canceled Nexus in the bottom left. He will not be able to reestablish his 4th base as he attempts to reestablish his 5th. Arbuz going to come in here and force a finished cancel on this Ministry, or maybe he'll just kill it. Shambler is not actually fast enough to cancel it, but he's got plenty of money in the bank, so does he even really need it? Witness is, of course, there to provide vision. Still waiting for these... LMAO. Still waiting for the moves to happen. Oh, they're returning to the treasury because that's the closest one instead of this, apparently. I guess that kind of makes sense by ground distance, right? You have to go all the way around. Oh, unfortunately, this is a bit of a firing squad. Unfortunately for Arbuz, he is going to end up losing a lot. But he pulls in his Anthelians and they just get sniped. They just get wiped. You can't frontline your Anthelians like that. LMAO indeed. Arbuz. No, not this. That's really funny though. Colin D. Well, I think that's a wrap, boys. Those were the last choices, the last best chance that ArbuzBudesh had, and I'm glad that it went in. GG. No hash. GG. Yeah, that is, that is kind of evil. That is kind of evil to say. But GG is called, and we are in for a Terran victory in this set of best of 3. That's not too bad. That might even be the good ending, because, the new units terrorize people, but we get to see a Terran overcoming that. Questionable decision-making is part of the way through, but it still had some really cool things. And don't be afraid about the lack of an additional player. That's a map issue that hopefully Shambler is fixed by now. But hey, at least the replays aren't going to be saved as y.replay anymore. So GG for that. We'll be back tomorrow for more Cosmonarchy. Join us then. Peace.